The freighter asterisk, Stellar Horizon asterisk, groaned under the strain of enemy fire as plasma blasts tore through its hull. Liam Carter, a wiry mechanic with grease-streaked hands and a knack for fixing things, scrambled toward the escape pods. His heart pounded in his chest, each beat echoing like a drum against the chaos erupting around him. Space pirates had ambushed their cargo ship without warning, leaving no time to retaliate or retreat. "Come on, move," shouted one of the crew members as another explosion rocked the vessel. Panels sparked overhead, raining shards of metal onto the panicked survivors below. Liam didn't need to be told twice. He pushed past others, his boots slipping on the slick floor, until he reached an escape pod bay. With trembling fingers, he punched in the launch sequence just as a fiery blast knocked him off balance. The hatch slammed shut behind him, sealing him inside the cramped capsule. Seconds later, the pod ejected into the void of space, hurtling away from the burning wreckage of the asterisk, Stellar Horizon asterisk. Through the small viewport, Liam watched helplessly as the pirates finished their assault, turning the once proud freighter into nothing more than drifting debris. Then, everything went dark as the pod entered the atmosphere of an unknown planet. The descent was brutal. The pod rattled violently, flames licking at its exterior as it plummeted through thick clouds tinged with violet hues. Liam gripped the armrests tightly, bracing himself for impact. When the pod finally hit the ground, the force threw him forward, knocking the wind out of him. For a moment, all he could hear was the ringing in his ears. When he regained his senses, Liam pried open the damaged hatch and stumbled outside. The air smelled strange, sharp yet sweet, like ozone mixed with flowers, but it was breathable. All around him stretched a landscape unlike anything he'd ever seen. Towering crystalline trees shimmered under twin suns, casting prismatic reflections across the terrain. Rivers of liquid light flowed between jagged rock formations, glowing faintly as they twisted toward the horizon. Before Liam could take in more, movement caught his eye. Figures emerged from the shadows, tall and imposing, clad in armor that seemed to ripple like water. Their faces were angular, almost insectoid, with luminous eyes that glowed faintly. One stepped forward, raising a weapon that hummed softly with energy. Liam froze, raising his hands instinctively. "Who are you?" demanded a voice, not spoken aloud but projected directly into his mind. It startled him, making his knees wobble. "I'm Liam," he stammered, unsure if they understood human speech. "I was attacked. My ship." His words trailed off as another figure approached. This one stood taller than the rest, adorned in regal robes woven from threads of pure light. Her presence radiated authority, commanding silence even before she spoke. "You are not of this world," she said, her tone cool but curious. Unlike the others, her thoughts felt calm, almost melodic. She tilted her head slightly, studying him with piercing eyes that seemed to see straight through him. "You will come with us." Liam wanted to argue, to ask questions, but there was something about her gaze that made resistance feel futile. As the armored soldiers surrounded him, leading him deeper into the alien wilderness, he couldn't shake the feeling that his life was about to change forever. Little did he know, this encounter would set him on a path far greater and stranger than he could have imagined. The leader introduced herself as Zinara Violet, princess of the Scytherian Empire. To Liam, she sounded both terrifying and fascinating. But what truly unnerved him wasn't her power. It was the flicker of intrigue he saw in her eyes when she looked at him. Whatever lay ahead, one thing was certain. Liam's days of being ordinary were over. Liam's new reality was overwhelming. The towering crystalline palace of Zinara Violet loomed above him, its spires reaching toward the twin suns like fingers grasping at the sky. Inside, everything shimmered faintly, as if the walls themselves were alive with energy. Servants, both alien and machine, moved silently through gilded halls, their movements precise and purposeful. Liam felt out of place among such opulence, his worn jumpsuit and dirt-streaked face, stark contrasts to the polished perfection around him. Zenara wasted no time assigning him tasks. "You will clean my chambers," she declared on his first day, her voice echoing softly in his mind. "And maintain my hovercrafts." Her tone left no room for argument. To her, Liam was little more than a curiosity, a primitive creature useful only for menial labor. Yet despite her cold demeanor, there was something oddly human about her. Occasionally, when she thought he wasn't looking, her expression softened, revealing hints of exhaustion or frustration. The work was grueling but not unbearable. Liam quickly learned how to navigate the palace's labyrinthine corridors, memorizing which rooms held what treasures and which guards disliked humans the most. He also discovered that the Exetherians communicated telepathically, their thoughts brushing against his mind like whispers. At first, it unnerved him, but over time, he grew accustomed to it, and even found ways to exploit it. By focusing hard enough, he could sometimes sense their emotions, giving him glimpses into their otherwise inscrutable personalities. One evening, while polishing one of Zenara's hovercrafts, Liam noticed her standing nearby, watching him intently. Her arms were crossed, her posture rigid, but her glowing eyes betrayed a flicker of uncertainty. Curious, Liam dared to ask, "Why do you keep me here?" "I'm just a servant." For a moment, she didn't respond. Then, with a sigh, she said, "You are different from the others who came before you. Humans intrigue me. Your kind has survived countless wars, yet your species thrives on chaos rather than order. Tell me, how do you endure?" Her question caught him off guard. No one had ever asked him something so profound. Hesitant at first, Liam began sharing stories of Earth, its cities, its art, its music. Zenara listened quietly, her expression unreadable. When he finished, she simply nodded and walked away, leaving him wondering if he'd said too much. As days turned into weeks, Liam started noticing subtle cracks in Zenara's regal facade. During council meetings, he overheard heated debates about alliances and trade agreements. High General Kale, her cousin and closest advisor, often pressed her to secure political marriages with rival empires. Once, after a particularly tense exchange, Liam accidentally brushed against Zenara's thoughts. She wasn't angry, at least not entirely. Instead, he sensed waves of loneliness and fear radiating from her. Fear of losing her throne, fear of failing her people, fear of being alone. This glimpse of vulnerability changed how Liam saw her. Beneath the armor of authority lay a woman burdened by responsibility, trying desperately to hold her empire together. It made him wonder, was she truly as untouchable as she seemed? One night, unable to sleep, Liam wandered onto a balcony overlooking the city. Bioluminescent trees swayed gently in the breeze, casting soft light across the landscape. To his surprise, Zenara joined him, her presence startling yet oddly comforting. For a while, neither spoke. Then, almost hesitantly, she asked, "Do all humans find beauty in imperfection?" Caught off guard, Liam chuckled nervously. "I guess so. We're messy creatures, but maybe that's why we survive. We adapt." She looked at him then, her gaze piercing yet thoughtful. In that moment, Liam realized they weren't so different after all. Both were trapped by expectations, struggling to reconcile duty with desire. Though neither admitted it aloud, a fragile connection began to form between them, a bond built on shared struggles and unspoken truths. Little did Liam know, this newfound understanding would soon lead to far greater challenges and revelations than either of them could have anticipated. It started with a simple question. One evening, as Liam polished the sleek surface of Zenara's hovercraft, she entered the chamber and asked, "What is Shakespeare?" Liam froze, his rag hovering midair. He turned to see her holding a small device, a translator tablet he brought from Earth during his escape. She must have been experimenting with it, trying to decipher human culture on her own. Her glowing eyes met his, expectant yet guarded. "Well," she prompted, tilting her head slightly. "You mentioned him before. Is he important?" For a moment, Liam debated brushing off the question. After all, this was an alien princess who saw him as little more than a servant. But something about her curiosity struck a chord within him. Shrugging, he said, "Yeah, I guess you could say that. Shakespeare wrote plays, stories about love, betrayal, life, stuff like that." Zenara frowned, clearly puzzled. Stories without purpose. Why waste time on such frivolity? "Because they make us feel," Liam replied without thinking. When she raised an eyebrow, he elaborated, "Humans aren't just machines, princess. We tell stories to understand ourselves, to connect. Shakespeare's works are still read today because they show truths about being alive." To his surprise, Zenara didn't dismiss him outright. Instead, she sat down on a nearby bench, motioning for him to continue. Over the next hour, Liam explained the plot of Romeo and Juliet *, describing how two young lovers defied their families only to meet tragic ends. As he spoke, he noticed her expression shifting, softening, as though she were seeing something in humanity she hadn't considered before. From that night on, their lessons became routine. Late at night, when the palace grew quiet, Zenara would summon Liam to her private garden, a breathtaking sanctuary filled with bioluminescent plants and shimmering fountains. There, under the glow of twin moons, they discussed everything from classical literature to modern internet memes. Zenara laughed openly at absurd cat videos translated into Scytherian glyphs, while Liam marveled at her ability to find deeper meaning in even the simplest human creations. Their dynamic began to shift subtly but unmistakably. What had once been purely master-servant evolved into something more complex. Zenara treated Liam less like a tool and more like a peer, at least during these secret meetings. For his part, Liam found himself growing fond of her sharp wit and insatiable curiosity. Beneath her regal exterior lay a woman eager to learn, unafraid to admit when she didn't know something. But not everyone approved of these clandestine lessons. High General Kale, ever watchful and suspicious, began noticing the late-night visits. One day, as Liam passed through the grand hall, Kale stepped in front of him, blocking his path. The general's armor gleamed menacingly in the dim light, his glowing eyes narrowing as he spoke. "You spend too much time with Her Majesty," Kale said, his telepathic voice laced with disdain. "Do not mistake her kindness for weakness, human. You are disposable." Though Liam tried to brush off the warning, it lingered in his mind like a shadow. Something about Kale's tone set his nerves on edge. Still, he couldn't bring himself to distance from Zenara, not when their conversations felt so meaningful. One evening, while discussing Earth's history, Liam revealed details about humanity's past interactions with alien civilizations. To his shock, Zenara reacted with visible unease, her thoughts briefly spilling into his mind. He caught fragments of guilt and regret, feelings tied to secrets she refused to share. Curiosity gnawed at him. Determined to uncover the truth, Liam began sneaking into restricted archives after hours, searching for clues about Earth's forgotten connections to the Scytherians. What he discovered chilled him to the bone. Centuries ago, humans had shared advanced technology with the Scytherians, only to be betrayed and abandoned when their usefulness ended. As Liam pieced together the puzzle, he realized the weight of what he'd stumbled upon. This wasn't just a personal betrayal. It was systemic injustice. And if Zenara truly cared about fairness, as she sometimes claimed, then she needed to face the truth, even if it meant confronting her own empire's dark history. Little did Liam know, his discoveries would soon thrust him into a rebellion brewing beneath the empire's glittering surface, and test the fragile bond he built with Zenara in ways neither could have imagined. The weight of what Liam had uncovered haunted him. The archives revealed a grim truth. Centuries ago, humans had helped the Scytherians develop their empire, sharing technology and knowledge in exchange for peace and alliance. But once the Scytherians grew powerful, they turned on humanity, abandoning Earth, and leaving it vulnerable to exploitation by other alien factions. It was a betrayal so profound that Liam felt anger simmering beneath his skin every time he thought about it. He knew he couldn't keep this secret from Zenara, but how could he tell her? Would she even believe him? Despite their growing bond, she was still the princess of an empire built on lies. Every night, as he lay awake in his tiny quarters, Liam wrestled with doubt. Yet, deep down, he believed Zenara wasn't like the others. If anyone could confront the past and make things right, it was her. One evening, during one of their clandestine lessons in the glowing garden, Liam decided to take the risk. "Zenara," he began hesitantly, "there's something I need to show you." Her expression shifted from curiosity to suspicion. "What is it?" Leading her to a secluded corner of the palace where guards rarely ventured, Liam pulled out a small data crystal containing the evidence he'd gathered. Using a portable holoprojector, he displayed ancient documents and recordings detailing Earth's contributions and subsequent betrayal. Zenara watched silently, her luminous eyes widening with each revelation. When the presentation ended, she stood frozen, her hands trembling slightly. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, her voice entered Liam's mind, sharp and unsteady. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because you deserve to know," Liam replied firmly. "Your empire was built on deception. If you care about fairness, if you want to be more than just another ruler clinging to power, you have to face the truth." Zenara turned away, her shoulders tense. Liam sensed a storm of emotions raging within her. Shame, anger, fear. Finally, she spoke. "This changes nothing. The empire relies on stability. Revealing these truths would only cause chaos." Her words stung, but Liam refused to back down. "Stability built on lies isn't worth protecting. You can do better than this, Zenara. Be the leader your people need, not the one they expect." Before she could respond, footsteps echoed down the corridor. High General Kale appeared, flanked by 2 armored soldiers. His piercing gaze locked onto Liam, who instinctively stepped back. "I warned you," Kale said coldly, addressing Zenara. "This human has been meddling in matters far above his station." Zenara hesitated, torn between loyalty to her people and her growing trust in Liam. In the end, duty won out. With visible reluctance, she declared, "Liam Carter, you are hereby charged with treason against the Exoetherian Empire. You will be exiled immediately." Liam felt a pang of betrayal, but before he could protest, Zenara added softly, projecting her thoughts directly into his mind. "Trust me, asterisk." Moments later, Liam found himself escorted to the edge of the city, where a transport vessel awaited. As the doors sealed shut behind him, he realized the ship wasn't heading toward barren wastelands. It was veering toward rebel territory. Zenara had secretly arranged for his escape, ensuring his safety while maintaining appearances. Heartbroken yet determined, Liam joined the rebels, vowing to fight for justice, not just for himself, but for all those oppressed by the Empire. And though he no longer trusted Zenara completely, he couldn't ignore the flicker of hope in her final message. "We'll find another way, asterisk." Little did Liam know, that promise would soon force both of them to confront not only their shared history, but also the fragile feelings they'd tried so hard to deny. The rebellion grew stronger with each passing day, fueled by Liam's knowledge and determination. Under his guidance, the rebels began organizing coordinated attacks on key Imperial outposts, disrupting supply lines and spreading dissent among the oppressed lower classes of Scytherian society. For the first time in centuries, whispers of revolution echoed through the Empire's once unshakable foundations. Liam threw himself into the cause, using his mechanical expertise to sabotage Imperial technology and rally support. Yet, despite his outward resolve, a part of him still wrestled with doubt. He couldn't forget the look in Zenara's eyes when she sentenced him to exile. Pain mingled with resolve. She had betrayed him, yes, but her secret message lingered in his mind. Asterisk, we'll find another way. Asterisk, did she mean it? Or was it just a fleeting gesture to ease her guilt? As the rebels prepared for their final assault on the capital city, tensions reached a boiling point. High General Kale, sensing the Empire's vulnerability, took drastic measures. In a bold move, he seized control of the royal fleet, declaring martial law and accusing Zenara of weakness. His coup left the princess trapped within her own palace, surrounded by loyalists who were quickly losing faith in her leadership. Inside the rebel stronghold, a hidden underground cavern lit by glowing fungi, Liam studied holographic maps of the capital. The plan was risky: infiltrate the palace, disable its defenses, and broadcast evidence of the Empire's crimes to every corner of Scytherian space. It would be chaos, but Liam believed it was the only way to force change. "You're asking us to march into certain death," said Rinnick, a grizzled rebel leader with scars etched across his scaled face. "What makes you think we can win?" "Because we don't have a choice," Liam replied firmly. "If we don't fight now, nothing will ever change. And if there's even a chance, Zenara might stand with us." He trailed off, unwilling to admit how much he still hoped for her redemption. The night of the attack arrived under cover of darkness. Rebel forces descended upon the capital, their ships cutting through the violet skies like streaks of fire. Liam led a strike team tasked with disabling the palace's energy shields, a mission that required precision timing and nerves of steel. As they approached the towering structure, plasma cannons roared to life, lighting up the horizon. Inside the palace, Zenara faced mounting pressure. Kale stormed into the throne room, his armor gleaming menacingly. "Your reign is over," he snarled. "Step aside, or I will remove you myself." Zenara stood tall, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. "You underestimate me, cousin. This empire belongs to no one, not even you." Before Kale could respond, alarms blared throughout the palace. The rebels had breached the outer defenses. Seizing the moment, Zenara activated a hidden failsafe, locking down key sections of the palace and buying herself time to act. She knew what she had to do, even if it meant risking everything. Meanwhile, Liam fought his way through corridors swarming with Imperial guards. Every step brought him closer to the central control chamber and to Zenara. When he finally burst through the doors, weapon drawn, he found her standing alone amidst a sea of holographic displays. Her expression was unreadable, but her thoughts brushed against his mind like a whisper. "I trusted you," Liam said, lowering his weapon slightly. "And you sent me away." "And yet here you are," Zenara replied, stepping closer. "Still fighting. For me, for my people." "Why?" "Because someone has to," Liam shot back. "Even if it means going against you." For a long moment, they stared at each other, the weight of unspoken truths hanging heavy between them. Then, without warning, Zenara grabbed his hand and pulled him toward a console. "Help me end this," she said, her voice trembling with urgency. Together. Outside, the battle raged on, but inside the palace, an uneasy alliance formed. Side by side, Liam and Zenara worked to disable the remaining defenses, their movements synchronized as if guided by instinct. As the final barrier fell, a wave of relief washed over them. But their victory came at a cost. Kale's forces regrouped, launching a desperate counterattack that pushed deep into the heart of the palace. In the chaos, Liam realized one thing for certain: the road ahead would demand sacrifices neither of them could foresee. But as long as they stood together, hope remained alive. The palace trembled under the relentless assault of Kale's forces. Explosions rocked the halls, sending shards of crystal and debris raining down on Liam and Zenara as they worked frantically to secure the central control chamber. The air crackled with tension, not just from the battle raging outside, but from the unspoken bond forming between them. "We're running out of time," Zenara said, her voice tight with urgency. Her fingers danced across the holographic interface, rerouting power to critical systems while disabling others. "If Kale reaches us before we finish, everything will be lost." Liam nodded, his mind racing. Then let me buy us some time. Without waiting for her response, he grabbed a plasma rifle from a fallen guard and sprinted toward the main entrance. His heart pounded as he positioned himself behind a shattered pillar, taking aim at the advancing enemy troops. Each shot felt like a gamble, but adrenaline kept him steady. Zenara watched him go, torn between pride and fear. For so long, she had seen humans as inferior, weak, and chaotic. But Liam was proving her wrong in ways she couldn't ignore. As she continued working, fragments of his thoughts brushed against hers: determination, courage, and an unwavering belief that change was possible. It stirred something deep within her, a longing to rise above the legacy of cruelty and deceit that defined her empire. Meanwhile, Liam held his ground, picking off soldiers one by one. Though outnumbered, his resourcefulness gave him an edge. Using makeshift traps and the palace's labyrinthine layout to his advantage, he slowed Cal's advance enough for Zenara to complete her task. Just as reinforcements began flooding into the hall, the lights flickered and the massive energy shields surrounding the palace collapsed. Cheers erupted from the rebel forces outside, their victory giving new momentum to the fight. Back in the control chamber, Zenara activated the final sequence, broadcasting damning evidence of the Empire's crimes across every communication channel. Recordings of ancient betrayals, exploitation of lower castes, and manipulations of history played out for all to see. Across the planet, citizens paused mid-battle or mid-duty, stunned by the revelations. Doubt spread like wildfire, weakening Cal's grip on the military. But Cal wasn't ready to surrender. With a snarl of rage, he led a last-ditch charge into the palace, determined to silence Zenara once and for all. When he reached the control chamber, he found Liam standing between him and the princess, weapon raised defiantly. "Out of my way, human," Cal growled, his glowing eyes narrowing. "You've meddled long enough." "No," Liam replied, his voice firm despite the fear coursing through him. "This isn't your empire anymore. It belongs to everyone." Cal lunged, but before he could strike, Zenara intervened. Summoning her latent telepathic abilities, she unleashed a pulse of energy that knocked Cal off balance. Seizing the opportunity, Liam fired a precise shot, disabling Cal's armor and forcing him to kneel. Breathing heavily, Zenara stepped forward, addressing her defeated cousin. "It's over, Cal. Your reign of oppression ends here." As Imperial forces withdrew and rebel leaders secured key positions throughout the capital, Liam and Zenara stood together amidst the ruins of what had once been an unshakable empire. Exhaustion weighed heavily on both of them, but there was no time to rest. The rebellion had succeeded in toppling tyranny, but rebuilding would require unity and trust. In the days that followed, Zenara made a bold decision. She stepped down as empress, choosing instead to lead as a figurehead while implementing democratic reforms. Councils were formed, giving voice to the oppressed classes who had suffered under centuries of injustice. Liam, now hailed as a hero, stayed by her side, helping bridge the gap between humans and Cytherians. Though scars remained, both physical and emotional, the seeds of hope had been planted. Together, Liam and Zenara proved that even the most fractured worlds could find common ground when guided by compassion and courage. And as they looked toward the future, neither doubted that their alliance, however fragile, would shape generations to come. Months passed, and the once oppressive Cytherian Empire transformed into something entirely new, a federation built on principles of equality and cooperation. The towering Crystal Palace, once a symbol of unchecked power, now stood as a beacon of unity. Its spires no longer gleamed with arrogance, but reflected the light of twin suns in soft, welcoming hues. Inside, banners representing diverse species fluttered alongside each other, a testament to the hard-won peace. Liam had become an integral part of this transformation. No longer seen as just a human or a servant, he was now respected as a leader and mediator. His knack for problem-solving and his unwavering belief in fairness earned him a seat at the newly formed Council of Unity, where representatives from every caste, and even Earth, worked together to rebuild society. Yet, despite his newfound status, Liam remained humble, often reminding others that change wasn't achieved by one person alone, but by collective effort. Zenara, too, had changed. She shed the trappings of absolute authority, choosing instead to guide her people as a unifying figure rather than a ruler. Her regal demeanor softened, replaced by warmth and empathy she had learned through her journey with Liam. Together, they navigated the challenges of transition, addressing grievances, fostering dialogue, and ensuring that no voice went unheard. One evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and violet, Liam and Zenara stood together on a balcony overlooking the capital city. Below them stretched a landscape reborn. Glowing rivers flowed freely, markets bustled with life, and children of all species played side by side under bioluminescent trees. It was a far cry from the rigid, divided world they had inherited. "You did it," Liam said softly, breaking the silence. "You gave them hope." Zenara shook her head, a faint smile tugging at her lips. "We did it. Without you, I would have been lost. You showed me that strength isn't about control, it's about connection." Her words stirred something deep within him. For so long, Liam had doubted whether someone like him could make a difference in such a vast, alien universe. But standing here now, seeing the fruits of their labor, he realized how much impact one person could truly have. As the first stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Zenara turned to face him fully. Her luminous eyes searched his, filled with emotion she no longer tried to hide. "Liam," she began hesitantly, "when this began, I saw you as nothing more than a curiosity, a tool to understand humanity. But now," she paused, taking the deep breath, "now, I see you as so much more. You've become my partner, not just in rebuilding this empire, but in finding myself." Liam felt his chest tighten, caught off guard by the sincerity in her voice. "Zenara," he replied, his tone gentle yet resolute, "you've changed me too. Before I crashed here, I thought my life was ordinary, forgettable. But meeting you, fighting alongside you, it made me believe in something bigger than myself." For a moment, neither spoke. The cool breeze carried the scent of blooming flora, wrapping around them like a quiet promise. Then, slowly, Zenara reached out, her hand brushing against his. It was a small gesture, but it carried the weight of everything they'd endured together. In the days that followed, their bond deepened further. Though they still faced challenges, resistance from remnants of the old regime, skepticism from some factions, they tackled them side by side, united by shared purpose and mutual respect. Together, they worked tirelessly to ensure that the Federation thrived, blending human ideals of freedom and creativity with Scytherian traditions of harmony and unity. As they looked toward the future, both knew that their journey was far from over. There would be trials ahead, moments of doubt and uncertainty. But standing together, hand in hand, they faced those challenges not with fear but with hope. And so, beneath the twin suns of a world reborn, Liam and Zenara forged a legacy greater than either could have imagined, a testament to the power of trust, compassion, and love across boundaries. Whatever the future held, they were ready, together.